There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday at 9 5 in the Evil Network, Rumble X, YouTube. Check out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire, Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face coming across on that. Plus, you can get our archives 24/7 all the time. Lots on that. You know, do we have an anti-law enforcement racist council in Moreno Valley? It sure seems to be getting that way. We'll touch on that in a few seconds. Counties are going to be eating it if H.R. 1 passes. They're going to shove, this illegals not getting the Medicare and the ballooning. Now they're going to shove more of that down to the counties, among other things on that. It's another evil proposal coming up through that. We're going to dig into some of the election results and the top two in the primary and how to win elections. Let's talk about how you win elections. Everybody's got their favorite candidate or issue or cause or whatever. But in the bottom line, if you don't win, it's all for naught. So we're going to focus on coming up with strategies that are going to win in California in 2026. And it's creating the perfect storm. Even though we will probably lose 3 to 5 congressional seats, Texas will probably make that up. Hopefully the other MoVal's Republicans in the other states will do it, because they could actually net one. Actually, maybe keep the House if they had any intestinal fortitude, as we say, on that. But I want to start out with why refineries are moving out of California by the droves. And it seems to be one of the very, very, very troubling aspects in California, and why we really need to turn these elections around in California. Why are the refineries moving out? It's a very, very troubling question. Mind you, we've had in the last, let's say the last 2 years, we're going to have 4 major refineries closed. We're going to be down to maybe 7 by summertime when gas demand goes way up in California. Now, there's a glut of supply. Some of the other economies overseas are slowing down. That's why you're seeing gas prices overall, and Trump coming in and lowering the price of oil and getting that is why you're seeing gas on that. We're still paying 50% more in California. California Post, our new tab in there, piggybacking off the NY Post. California gas prices expected to soar as Valero shutdown worsens oil crisis, by Anna Young. On that, the Benicia refinery began shutting down on Saturday, 4 months earlier than planned, a former Valero manager told the California Globe yesterday. Thermal imaging showed the facility went cold as the Crimson Pipeline, which transports crude from southern to northern California, was taken offline. We are in an unprecedented oil crisis, oil expert Mike Ariza told the publication, the California Post. Mike Ariza used to work for Valero. He's retired, but he's been very concerned, to say the least, of what's been happening with this whole ordeal. And he was on not too long ago on California Insider with Mike Mischke. And it's just been one telling ride after another on this. We're going to start with Mischke's comments. Well, no, I believe we're going to start with Mike Ariza's comments. It might be Mischke. Heck, I don't know. We'll let it roll and see what it says. This is from California Insider.
Valero is the next refinery that's exiting the state. There's an update that things will change. They're going to continue supplying the gasoline, but they're going to import it. They're not going to operate. What are your thoughts?
Well,
that got blown in the weeds. They were trying, and that was from a month ago when Newsom's negotiation, and they were going to try to keep going. Valero is done. They shut it down a few days ago. There's nothing left. More from California Insider.
Let me start on that one, because I just finished looking at that. There's no real update to that. If you look at their press release, which came out, I believe, January 6th, just a few days ago, it just parrots what they said back in April when they said they were going to shut down. And so there's no real update to it. They said, look, we're going to terminate our operations in April of 2026. We will work against our existing inventory of crude oil, which means they're not taking any more crude oil in. And at some point, we will cease operations by April 26th. And, we'll import some gasoline. We'll work with the state to figure out how to import some gasoline and maybe turn ourselves into a terminal.
Yeah, that's why
So that was Mike Mischke doing the first update. And that was total BS. Gavin Newsom for a month was trying to lay it off. Oh, we're going to negotiate and get this done, and there'd be no problem. And you heard Mike Mischke from USC, the professor that's done studied this stuff for eons, saying that was total BS. He's twisting the press release harder than one of those humongous pretzels. Here is Mike Ariza, who was quoted in the California Post article.
I started to get into this, and I was trying to get traction. As I was worried because Valero is the most complex and the most efficient refiner in the state. None are designed like it. When I heard Phillips 66 was shutting down, it caught my attention. But then when I heard Valero was going down, I'm doing my job, farming. Suddenly I'm like, what do you mean Valero's going down? So I started investigating, digging into what was going on. And I just decided one day I generated my own brief and went down to the Capitol because I wasn't really getting anywhere. That's where I ended up meeting Stan, scheduled a meeting with him. We talked about the brief. We've gone down a total of 370,000 barrels a day of crude oil was lost in 2023, and now almost at a.
So we lost 2023. We had two refineries closed down, two major refineries. That got us down to like 11. These other two refineries that have going, and Valero was the newest, most modern, no pollution, not no pollution, least amount of pollution, no environmental damage, no oil seeking in, nobody dying from diesel smoke, and all the whole rigmarole. News, and mind you, that plant is 26 years old. We've been another reason why gas is high. We're importing either oil or refined gas because nobody else can supply us with gas except a few overseas refiners when we do the California blend, which is different than what the other 49 states do. This is what's absolutely 1,000% bananas about this whole thing. More from Mike Ariza, former Valero employee and consultant in the oil and gas refining business.
Equivalent amount of crude oil production is being lost between Phillips 66 and Wilmington, and with Valero going down now. And the problem, we're at a point now where we can't bring in our infrastructure. We're almost pretty much limited on what we can bring in for fuel. Gasoline, jet fuel, we're getting it from across the Pacific Ocean because, like we all know, this is an island. We don't have pipelines coming in, and we're pretty much maxed out on what we can handle bringing in. Now we're going to lose a refinery, which is it is in the process of slowly coming down now, which produces between 4.5 and 4.7 millions of gallons of gasoline a day, around 600 to 700,000 gallons of jet fuel a day, and that equivalent of diesel. We don't have the capacity to handle that.
So this is part of the condition we're in. We don't have we don't have oil pipelines of crude oil coming from Canada or Texas or Oklahoma. All our pipelines, because we used to pump 90% of the oil we used in California, and we could still do it today, right here in California. We have enough crude oil. That's why the pipeline goes from Southern California up to the Benicia, Martinez, up there to the Bay Area to supply the Valero line. And that's what they were talking about, is as Newsom and the AB 32 and all we're going to die diesel smoke crowd said, or what, we've been shutting down all sorts of wells, capping them, capping existing ones that are running. There's been less and less oil, and they've said, hey, even if you want to run it, we can't get enough oil through the pipeline. So if we do keep it open, it would have to come from overseas, which is even more expensive and more pollution. Static analysis will kill you 98.7% of the time.
Bring that in. So I'm just really very concerned about it. Any type of events that can occur, refinery downtime like the El Segundo fire that just happened, weather related, typhoon. Back when I worked there, ran that control board, there was a couple times where I actually cut the refinery back due to storms in Alaska. We couldn't get the Alaska North Slope. So we cut from 135,000 down to 100. One time we were about 8 to 10 hours away from completely shutting down because the tankers were being held up that much. Now we have so many tankers coming in to offload. The docks, the ports are so crowded like LA. They had a fire on a tanker, a cargo ship, a big fire that was so bad they pulled it away from the dock. They were worried about the dock being damaged. If something like that happens, we will very quickly run out of gasoline, our supplies. We don't have a lot of inventory, 14 days. We'll run out of supplies. Not only will prices go through the roof, but you will end up having shortages. And we're supplying Phoenix, we're supplying Vegas, we're supplying Nevada. So those two states, all of the military installations.
So if that doesn't trip your trigger, it's a national security issue, like they've said. And we're going to be refining, not only crude oil, we're going to be relying on China to refine gas to get it to California. If I have to explain to you why that is a bad idea, we're in deep doo-doo, as George Poppy Bush said. This whole refinery thing closing down, and it's been going on for 5,432 years. I mean, we had almost 50 refiners when they built that last plant. Well, I think in the 80s. We had over 50 refiners. Now we're going to be down to 7. It's insane. We're totally insane. If we don't turn this around, and humongously quickly, we're going to be in such a pickle. You think 50%? That $8 a gallon of gas is coming. Quoting from the California Post, refiners are fleeing the Golden State as regulators drive operating costs 26 to 37% higher than the national average. Chevron moves its operations from the Bay Area to Texas, where Phillips 66 powered down a 140,000 barrel a day LA refinery, the one in El Segundo. Ariza warned that refineries go dark. Californians will also skip town, noting that oil and gas industry supports 500,000 jobs. This is absolutely El Critical. One more shot from Mike Mitski as we close out on this. Here we go.
At least $2.5 billion worth of assets in the state, and those are refinery assets. Now, Chevron has written off about $4 billion worth of refinery assets in the state. And of course, they vacated California. Their corporate headquarters is now in Houston. They've left after 140 years of doing business in the state. Chevron was founded in the state. So they're gone with their only significant assets being their 2 refineries here and some field production. So we see the refiners beginning to take or are taking financial write-offs, and those are in anticipation of exiting the state.
Hey, husband.
They're exiting the state. We're down to 7, and but what are we going to get to 0? And then we're going to go, well, what? We've got to pump oil in California because that's where our pipelines are. Or we've got to import it from somewhere else. That's what they're talking about. We got to, no refineries, no gas, diesel, jet fuel, propane. They're killing natural gas. Sometimes with the things governments do that are on beyond comprehension, I hope people grab onto this issue here in California, because we have got to, in 26, turn this stuff around politically, or we're deader than a freaking doornail. And we will drag the rest of the state, or the rest of the country, and the world down with us if California collapses. We cannot let that happen. Get into some more of the topics as we roll. On this Practice Friday, as real Don Steele used to say, go type in your search engine 93 KHJ Boss Radio and check out some of the real Don Steele. Yeah, that would be interesting. If you want some entertainment of how nostalgic SoCal radio was, check out some of the old clips from the real Don Steele, Boss Radio 93, out here in SoCal. But we either get our act together or we don't. The choice is ours. We have 9,432 of these things on the docket. Here's another one, H.R. 1, that's up there at the Assembly. Will have significant impacts on counties and the California communities we serve. Counties will incur new costs to provide indigent health care to individuals who lose Medi-Cal coverage. We know where that's going. And we know why that's going. So if you want more coming out of your wallet to pay for the health care of others, because it's not coming out of Tom Steyer's or Rick Caruso's or whomever, Arnie Schwarzenegger or whoever, no talent entertainer who has a house on a $3 million mansion on stolen Indian land. That's some of the flat, ridiculous nonsense, and I totally mean nonsense, we deal with on a daily basis. What I want to get to some of the polling and we'll set up the elections, we'll get to, is 4 out of 5, the supermajority of Moreno Valley City Council, anti-law enforcement, anti-American. But I want to run this clip of Harry Enton to show that it's not a cakewalk. And the Trump MAGA movement is definitely not Republican. Has a lot of elements to Republicans, but it's not a Republican Party per se movement. Get that equation out of your head. Here's some of the polling numbers from Holy Batman Harry Enton. Here we go.
Yeah, Donald Trump made huge gains in 2024 versus 2020 in New York, but now we're looking at a huge Democratic rebound. What are we talking about here? Okay, so you go back, Democrats' margins in New York. In 2024, Kamala Harris won New York by just 13 points, not a very wide margin at all. But take a look here for New York. Look at how the House Democrats or Democrats going for the House of Representatives are polling now for 2026. Look at that wide, huge advantage. That is doubling the margin that Kamala Harris had back in 2024. They're up by 27 points. And of course, there are a lot of Republican representatives in New York. You know, talk about Mike Lawler up in the Hudson Valley, right? When you see numbers like this, you have to be really worried if you're Mike Lawler, because we're talking about a huge Democratic rebound in New York. And oftentimes, Democratic majorities are built on states like New York, eliminating the few Republicans that actually represent it in the House.
So that's exactly what's happening in California. Now, the Supreme Court stamped Prop 50. We're going to lose 3 to 5 seats in California, guaranteed. Now, we might even that out in Texas. But then you've got the general thing. And they only got a 1, 2, 3 seat margin in the House. They better get off the snide. You Republicans, you better threaten Mike Pence or all those in Indiana over there. Say, do like the Democrats. You will never get elected sewer cleaning commissioner again if you don't get in there and redistricting. Supreme Court said it's fair season. If you do it for political reasons, you can redistrict every 6 months if you feel like it.
Going from New York, go to California. I know you wanted to look at that too. You've got this is what it's looking like in New York. How about California?
Yeah, okay, California has a ton of Republicans, right? And obviously there's a redistricting where Democrats want to eliminate as many Republicans as possible from the House of Representatives. Take a look here. Kamala Harris, again, she won, but this is actually a relatively small margin for Democrats. She won by 20 points out on the West Coast in the big state of California. But take a look at the 2026 House polling. Again, Democrats, a big rebound. This looks a whole heck of a lot more like 2020 than it does like 2024, with Democrats up by 28 points on the House ballot.
We're going to get into this, but if you don't see, this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. On top of the redistricting, they might pick up another seat or two that in California. You got to counteract that elsewhere. Or the next 2 years nationally is just going to be impeach Trump. Trump is mean. We hate Trump. From the ding-dongs that have no idea. Sad part of it. And we're going to give you the evidence here in a couple minutes when we join the mighty Met KMET. If my people can intimidate and block your entrance and throw you in jail and sweep you off the streets in immigration raids, it's okay. But if I don't like you, if you're a mean white hillbilly racist, then they make you a boogeyman, and then it's all, the pitchforks and torch comes out, throw them in the cauldron.
40 seconds, 40 seconds.
All that other good stuff on that. As Jesse said, we'll pick up on, is MoVal's City Council racist and anti-law enforcement? We'll review what they said at last Tuesday's meeting. It was very interesting. We'll get into some of the governor's race and some of the nitty-gritty after some of these national poll results that we just had. And beware, the gas prices are going to soar here in a few months.
5 seconds. Here we go.
And download your free phone app today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience in the UVP Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Type in I Newswire Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. We did the thing with Mike Mischke, Mike Ariza, the shuttered Benicia plant, most modern one, all the problems. They said in a few months, bend over. You're going to get screwed on gas like you've never seen before. We're potentially in California. We are going to be on our knees to China and the Asian countries or Saudi Arabia to get gas, diesel, propane, maybe even natural gas. So, you know what? Get off the 3x5 screen and get your act together and start getting in the ball game before it's too freaking late. Another on top of this whole enchilada is we have the Moreno Valley City Council. 5 members. Mayor Baby Jesus Ulysses Cabrera, Mayor Pro Tem Erlen Gonzalez, Shaylinda Bernard, Mr. Ed Delgado, and Elena Baca Santa Cruz. 4 of them, minus Mr. Ed, have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, I believe racism, and anti-law enforcement. So at one of the comments on matters not on the agenda at the Moreno Valley City Council, this young lady stepped up to the plate and said this.
Well, I would like to start it off a little bit different than everybody else, but I give my highest respect to ICE. I am an immigrant myself, and I...
Wait a minute. I'm going to rewind that again because I've been told 9,487 times. Nobody believes this. No immigrant could possibly support ICE, could possibly support the United States, the evil United States of America, the evil Donald Trump. The ones of us that are hiding and all that have enough balls to come in here and sit next to me and defend your positions. Let's roll it. I got to roll that again.
I would like to start it off a little bit different than everybody else, but I give my highest respect to ICE. I am an immigrant myself, and I support ICE in any way. I feel they're doing a good job. So maybe you want to rethink the warehouses, because I would be for using those as detention centers. So
whoa! I'm an immigrant. I support ICE, and I would support the warehouses. I would support the warehouses to be used as detention centers for people in our country unlawfully and illegally and have deportation orders signed by a judge and or have been criminally charged with crimes. Want to thank Freddie B on Moreno Valley First for posting that little vignette. And it just goes to show how out of touch your public officials can be. And if they're not the number one, they're in the top three. The out of touch, the home of out of touch politicians is Moreno Valley, California. Here is Councilwoman 4th District Shaylinda Bernard.
Spoke about it. I could talk about this government. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I won't, because I think now that we see who was murdered for the last 2 rounds.
First she said she was not going to talk about it. Then she is, and now murder. Murder. Alex Pretty, who's kicking out the taillights. Miss Good, Renee Good, who Butch Becca said, "Drive, baby, drive," while the ICE officer's standing in front of the car. No charges have even been filed. No court trial has been made. No convictions. But oh yeah, them I say they're just walking the streets, snatching people off, killing them. You know, in the morning briefing, it's how many, you have your quota kill today. If you don't kill 13 blacks and browns and we don't care why, you will be fired. This is flat frickin' ridiculous.
And the words of Malcolm X, America, the chickens have come home to roost. And so.
Yep, the chickens have come home to roost, Shay. The law is being enforced like Obama enforced the law. Exactly. And as it is being done today under Donald J. Trump, under the same guy, Tom Homan, who Obama gave a medal. Here we go. Here we go.
Now that the chickens have come home to roost, I question what you think you're going to be able to do about that. So while this president continues to enrich himself at over couple $100 billion.
So now Trump, what? Trump, who on Forbes' list is worth like $2 billion before this presidential election, has 100 times amassed in a year his wealth. That wouldn't be misinformation. That wouldn't be false. Where's the fact checkers? They've silently disappeared, who've been discredited because of information like this. Prove the case, Shay. Where's he worth $200 million?
Since he's been in office, he's exposing the grift on levels that you've never seen. Think about that when your neighbors are talking to you all about ICE. That's why I said I will never, at the sake of my neighbor's humanity, say that it is okay for the things that are happening, because once you start letting these lines get crossed, the lines are already blurred. I'm glad that Liam was able to go home, but there are countless.
Liam, the 5-year-old who the ICE agents took back to his mother, who refused to answer the door to take back her 5-year-old son. Tell me what kind of mom refuses to take their kid in for whatever reason. It's because of fear-mongering and everything else that's went on.
Other children that are there whose pictures weren't broadcast everywhere as a poster child, so they're still sitting in ICE detention and custody. And I hope at some point America really looks itself in the mirror, and don't tell me this is not what you voted for. At least admit it. I know there are people here who at least admit, like, nah, this is what I voted for, because I like to see who you are. I don't want you to lie to me about it.
Please, Shay, come in here. And not where you're hiding behind or you got the control of everything. Win the debate. Win your contentions on the strength of your argument and put them to the test. If not, you're the chicken. We proudly say this is what we voted for. People across America have proudly done that. in numbers they have never done before. This stuff, this kind of vitriol of anti-law enforcement. Now, if you want to run to the extreme minority kooks that want to play this game, you're more than welcome to it, Shay.
About who you are. So with that, I close. Happy Black History Month. If you don't know anything about Black history, please go do some research. There are plenty of Black history heroes out there, including all the inventions that you guys see, from the elevator to open heart surgery, to just something as simple as a traffic light. So there are tons of things that we are famous for.
Only the racists mentioned race. Why don't we do, how about human history, Shay? Are we all not one? This is where, in the contention of where things go completely haywire, as I've said, the real racists are the ones that shout racist the most. And it's a crying shame sometimes that we have to deal with this. And again, I will prove to you I'm not very smart. Because I will tell it 100% like it is. You can be a friend, you can be a foe. We're going to tell it like it is, and the facts, and we will give each and every one of you a chance to come in studio and defend your positions. Here's Elena Baca, Santa Cruz.
We welcomed the scouts here to the chamber so that they can learn firsthand about local government, civic leadership, and the role the electeds play in serving the community. So I found that very fun to do with the boys. I also attended the Utilities Commission and also the town hall meeting that was held by Congressman Takano. That was very well attended. Our residents are concerned about ICE. They're concerned for their neighbors. Most of the residents that showed up that night said, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about my neighbors. I'm worried about...
The only reason they're worried about their neighbors is because of rhetoric like this. Oh, they're getting snatched off the street. They're getting murdered. The cops are murdering you.
The kids that walk past my house on their way to school. So it's really nice to see that those of us who can go out and speak up are doing so, because we really got to think about those who aren't going out. Because
where's the defense? I personally, down there in Riverside, was surrounded and not allowed to go into a public building by the people that are supporting exactly what you're rolling, Elena, and you know about it because I told you and you went by there. But you just saw the nice, peaceful part. This is the kind of rhetoric that's going to destroy this country. This is what's happening to our country in reality. Maybe one day we'll get to figure this stuff out. I don't know. Of course, Mayor Baby Jesus, Ulysses Cabrera, had to throw his sentence in. Here we go.
Press conference of mayors, you know, it was powerful just to be in D.C. in 10-degree weather. It was freezing, but to be there with a bipartisan group of mayors from all over the country, and it was refreshing to see, although we do not agree on the specifics of what the solution looks like to how we move forward as a country, it was refreshing to see that at least we finally have come to a consensus between Republican mayors, Democrat mayors, independent mayors, that what is currently coming out of D.C. is not working. It's tearing our country apart.
If you mean the mayors across the country like you that are not allowing law enforcement to go into your county jail and your state jail and your sanctuary cities and get criminals out, yes. If that's what you're talking about, what policy are you agreeing? Because we got tons of information of you, anti-ICE, law enforcement. They're snatching people off the ground. They're torturing. Oh, the poor 5-year-old boy. Oh, they murdered Renee Good. Or Alex Fritty. Nothing. Nothing about Jacob Fry or Tampon Timmy or Gavin Newsom or Victor Manuel Perez or you. Any of you want to come in here and have a discussion about it. I want you to prove your case. I want you to name names publicly here, baby Jesus, of what mayor you're in so we can ask them, do you agree with this guy? Let's get it on. I am sick. America is sick by the polling. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, we put the thing on. And across the country, in there, the majority of the people want local government officials and law enforcement officers to cooperate with ICE.
Finally, we've come to that consensus, not from the left, but from the right. It took this long for folks to really start opening their eyes and speaking up. Some people a little too little too late. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thune and all these guys they're on their way out. Now they find the courage to finally speak up.
Why don't you have the courage to come in here and speak up and not run, not where you got the control of the mic again? Why don't you, Mr. Badass, 8.5 years, you have lied. You have not kept your promise to come in here in studio and do it. You said you would. You said it on multiple occasions, and you have not done it in 8.5 years. So Shaylinda and Elena and Erlen, if you want to hitch your wagon to this, be my guest. But you will have no fiercer opponent than me and the majority of American people by the poll after poll and conversation that reject that, just like the immigrant come up and said. I support ICE. I support the detention center for warehouse uses. Some are not buying into the fear-mongering that is far too prevalent in our society today. But we have to endure this sort of vitriol at our council meetings, in our government, and of course in Moreno Valley, has got to personify stupid at a level that's probably never been seen before, and that's going to take a lot from this area. We're not known as Moron Valley, as Pete used to say many times, for nothing. And this continues. And it's absolutely going to stop if the vast majority of us have anything to say about this. It's absolutely 1,000% mind-blowing, the hate that goes on at the Moreno Valley City Council.
Remaining land and focus on manufacturing, healthcare, something that's going to generate jobs for the uses there. And of course, no detention facilities, right? That's as I mentioned, land use zone.
Yep, there's your number 4 on the hit parade of Moreno Valley City Council members who are anti-law enforcement, racist, and want a chaotic community. That's what you're advocating for. And again, Shaylinda, baby Jesus, Erlen, and Elena have enough guts. You want to call us out, and we don't say that. I got the hat here and the vest and the garbage can and everything else. Defend the actions of your supporters who are doing the exact same thing. Here's Jacob Fry on CNN, with the reporter asks, what difference is what Donald J. Trump is doing with immigration enforcement that Barack Obama did not do exactly the same thing? Where were you calling it out then, sir?
During the Obama years, the Hennepin County Jail actually had a policy where they let an ICE agent keep an office there and allowed them to talk to immigrants. So the policy has clearly...
In 2015, the Obama administration had an ICE agent in the jails in Minneapolis. Had an office in there to deal with what? Immigrants, because that's the only thing ICE does.
Been under a Democratic president what now the Trump administration is asking for. I mean, big picture, do you think it's good policy for the jails to follow an ICE detainer and hand someone over if they've committed a crime? And again, this only happens after they've served their time, for whatever crime they may have committed against the people of Minnesota.
I mean, look, you're asking all the right questions.
Discount. Well, you're asking all the right questions. And he just obfuscates the rest of the whole thing. That's on CNN pointing out the hypocrisy. Well, if Obama did it, was absolutely okay. We actually cheerleaded. We let him in. We let him have an office in the jail. Now that Donald J., with the same guy Tom Homan and Borders are, that Barry O gave a big medal to Deporter-in-Chief under my administration. Please, all four of you simultaneously. We'll broadcast it across the nation, worldwide. I don't want to see the dissension and stuff. And talking about this at the Moreno Valley City Council, you think Moreno Valley's running so good that the only thing that you guys got, your main focus is what? To destroy the United States of America? You know what? That's going to destroy Moreno Valley too. You brain surgeons. I want to talk a little bit, well, we ain't got much time, but I want to talk a little bit about the elections. Here's a real clear politics average. Chad Bianco, 15%, Steve Hilton, 13%, the rest of them, Spy Swalwell, Psycho Chick Porter and all that down. This is the way it's got to go. In June, we do this. We hold the course. And maybe we'll have a fighting chance in California to turn this state around and make it the once golden state it was. There it is. Bigger numbers. That's where it's got to hold. Here's the history, and you got the polls. That's an average of all the polls. Now, if it goes, and this is to my contention, Chad or Steve lose to any Democrat, bet a year, by 15 plus or more. Here's the final results, 2020. 60-40. 62-39. Final results in 18. And Gavin Newsom's first run. Almost identical. You cannot beat this stuff. Prop 50 was even 65% to 35%. The analysis from PPIC, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. Engagement was high. Prop 50 was similar to the gubernatorial vote, which was, again, 62% to keep Newsom. Prop 50 outcome suggests the coalition Democrats road to victory in 2020 or is re-emerging. Not the anomaly where Hispanics, minorities, freedom and liberty types, Democrats peace and freedom all came together to elect Donald J. Trump. Strong support in front 50 did not necessarily reflect negative views on redistricting commission. It was about the politics, and it's even getting heavier. Prop 50 on the books. Attention now turns back to the 26 midterm elections. Which measure is meant to influence voter engagement, with Prop 50 hints at a midterm election with high but not unprecedented turnout and a strong Democratic performance. Read the analysis. Look at the data and make your decisions. The election, if you're freedom and liberty type, if you want to change California around, if you don't want to see the racism and anti-law enforcement, not only in Moreno Valley, but all across California and across big cities of that, you don't want mayors spouting off on your dais like baby Jesus, and who was afraid and was run from 8.5 years from his promise to come in the studio. I happen to like his dad, but did you raise a son to be a chicken, to run away, to not keep his promises? I can tell you my late father, if I would have done that, would have kicked my ass from one end and up down the other. So spare me the lectures from the dais and come in here. And let's look Moreno Valley, California, the United States, and the world in the eye, and let them decide. Bring it. If you don't think I will bring it, then test it. Because this is serious as a heart attack. And I don't want to, I hate seeing my community, my state, my country, my world being divided by evil people that are trying to destroy it. We are a human race. We should be one. If we're anything like that, it will go down in flames. 1,000%. It's absolutely. That'll do it for today. We usually say, it's Practice Friday. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours live. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right, have a great night.
You got it.
Mm.